I don't know. I haven't done a YouTube intro in a while. I don't really know how to do this. I mean, do you have any tips? You've been the one doing it.
I mean, we've probably got a cold open between the recording already, so it's gonna be that. And then I don't know, like it's just like, yo, hey, we're drafting.
What's good, everybody? How y'all doing? Pick and Spreads, Donnie over here. You know, usually I'm not a big YouTube poster. I don't post a lot of YouTube content, but I just kind of figured we're about 30 days away from the NFL draft. Let's push out some mock drafts with some people. I got my good buddy Nick here. If you don't know, old co-host of the Boomer Bust podcast. Shout out to Max as well. We've been doing our thing for a while, so I just decided to bring him on. Let's do a mock draft together. The draft is super soon. So, Nick, buddy, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. The weather's getting nicer. Watched a ton of March Madness this weekend. Couldn't complain, honestly, at this point.
When Clemson lost, I don't think you understood how mad I was. Like, I was so furious because that is the only team in my bracket that's really been like cooked. Because I had Clemson making like the Elite Eight, and then outside of that, like my bracket's been fine. So I was so pissed that, of course, that had to be the 5-12 upset.
I've had the radical bracket fill out like beaten out of me. Like I'm always the guy who just does whatever the heck I want because it's fun. And then like I've just been losing for so many years that I finally just went chalk. And now I have a chance to win pools this year. So maybe you are just supposed to go chalk, which is so boring, but you know.
Oh, it is. Well, I mean, it's just been lack of upsets this year. And also, quick story before we get into this. When I was like, I don't know, 9 years old or something like that, I created a bracket and I was in like I think it was a 600-person tournament. I was in first place. I had every single team in the final four correct. And then both of the games I lost.
Dude, I never got all correct, but I did have 1 year where I had 3 in the championship, and the winner was 2009, I believe. It was North Carolina, Michigan State, Villanova, UConn. I didn't get Nova right, but because I hated them because I grew up in Philly and I was from D-State. But dude, I don't know what it is about like 9-year-old brain in March Madness, but like they just know what's happening. It's amazing.
Yeah, they just kind of look at the logo and they're just like, you know what, we're just gonna pick the cooler
it's
animal.
Just like they can project what's gonna happen. They're just like imagining outcomes. They're like, yeah, Hansbrough and Michigan's gonna beat Draymond Green. You don't know who Draymond Green is yet, but it's gonna happen.
That's how March Madness works. But no, let's get into this. I'm going to be picking the odds. Nick's going to be picking the evens, which is interesting because I don't know if you can see that hoodie down there. Nick, a Commanders fan, they had pick 29. I'm a Cardinal fan, and they had pick 16. So we're going to be picking for each other's teams. Hopefully we don't throw hands after or anything like that. But let's get into it. First pick, Tennessee Titans are up. I don't know about you. I've been on this train for a while. I just think they're going to take Cam Ward. Like, I understand Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, they're the two blue chippers of this draft. Like, I understand it, and they need an edge rush about it. It's just let Harold Landry go to the Patriots. You can't rock it back with Levis, and they didn't really sign anyone to really replace that. So, to me, that just kind of shows they're going to go Cam Ward. He's my QB1 in the draft. I think he has the highest upside out of the top two quarterbacks in this draft. And in a Brian Callahan system, and also with Bill Callahan, who's developing the offensive line, one of the best line coaches of all time, I think he can make it work. I know they signed Dan Moore to a ridiculous contract, and I don't think that's going to age well. But I also keep telling myself if anyone's going to fix him, it could be Callahan. So I trust the Titans. It's just we'll see how Cam does.
Yeah, you don't make those investments on the O-line specifically for like veterans like Kevin Zeitler and Dan Moore Jr. Like, you know, I guess is not technically like what he would call a veteran. He'll be around for a little while, like even before your deal. But you don't make those investments unless you're not like trying to get a better at the quarterback position or develop a guy. And I think the more I watch Cam Ward, the more I feel good about him as like a real upside quarterback prospect who can go number one. And I don't feel bad about it at all. And I don't know what their direction is if they don't go quarterback because they don't really have foundational pieces right now outside of like Jeffrey Simmons, who's been there for a while. And you need a quarterback that's like not hot garbage to develop every other position. So that's nothing against Will Levis, although it really is. I made it sound bad, but it's like, it's just like, it's not an easy situation for Will because they don't have good players and it's year 3 and you have the number 1 pick. Like this is just kind of what happens in this league.
Yep. It's unfortunate, but that's just what it is. Browns at 2, though. What you thinking?
Yeah, and so the thing I've been kind of drumming home with them is just the problem they have is the Deshaun Watson deal is just eating their cap space. And I don't think their roster is horrific. Like this is a team.
I agree, by the way.
This is a team that went to the playoffs 2 years ago with Joe Flacco playing most of their good quarterback play. I know Deshaun Watson played some snaps, but obviously he's not their plan at this point. I think they have decent coaching staff. Kevin Stefanski's a 2-time coach of the year. I don't think like schematically he's been overwhelmed in these past few years. They haven't drafted terribly. I mean, over the past couple of years, they may have missed on a high-end talent because they haven't had first-round picks, but they've added some guys who've contributed. Maybe they could use a receiver. Maybe they can get younger on the O-line, but the defense – bad year last year. They were on the field a lot. 2 years ago with the same players, they were much better. I think they were probably healthier too. I know Myles Garrett missed a chunk of the season, so that doesn't help as well. I just think the problem they have, though, is if they take a quarterback here, they're not taking advantage of the rookie deal, right? Like you're paying out the rookie. You're basically saying like, okay, we're not paying a rookie quarterback, but instead we're just going to pay our backup. And I just, from like a process standpoint, like maybe they do want to do that. I don't think they're going to do that. Like, I think they're going to just like try and get out of this Deshaun contract before they finally try and get the rookie QB. I think they're going to go hard after Russell Wilson and Kirk Cousins until something gives way. And I do think that they're going to take Abdul Carter here too, if he's available, and just, say, hey, we have maybe the best edge rushing duo in the league at this point,
Dude, I was telling someone earlier, this could be what people thought Clowney and Watt were going to be. Like it could truly be that good. And I wasn't, I was younger at the time. I was only like 12, 13 when Clowney was coming out. And I remember watching the highlights like, whoa. And, but going back and watching it like last year, I was able to get my hands on some of it. Listen, talented as heck. He had Myles Garrett, he had Chase Young traits, but the generational prospect stuff with him, I didn't love. I think Abdul Carter is that borderline generational blue chip prospect. Yes, he's not Myles Garrett. I don't think he's quite on the Bosa level, but he is on, in my opinion, the Will Anderson Jr. level of prospects. And I think his ceiling's way higher just because of the fact that his bend around the edge, especially for someone at his size at 6'3", 260, is super impressive. So I'm all in on Abdul Carter. I don't know if you feel the same way.
It's two things with him. One, it's the athleticism, I think, translates to winning as a pass rusher more clearly than just power and strength does, because he has that speed and bend like you talk about. But also, if you're not going to have like a fully developed like pass rush tool set, right? At the very least, you can win from different places on the field. And he can definitely do that. Like, this is a guy you can stunt and he's going to get free, and it's just going to be like, oh, this is a lot to handle for a tackle or a guard who's moving one direction and then needs to get back to this 255-pound guy who's full speed ahead, ducking under your arm, which he will do, and he'll get to the quarterback
he did
too.
It against Notre Dame with one arm, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, like, to be honest with you, I don't really see the situation where he ends up like a Chase Young or Jadeveon Clowney, where he's so reliant on tools that he can't produce consistently at the highest level, just because I think like his skill set is just so like perfect for this position in today's league. Whereas I think like we looked at those tools and we're like, they need to be developed. Like, you could not develop this guy. I think he'll be fine. He could be better than he is, but the league, it just gets faster and stronger, and the tackles are getting bigger. They're also getting more athletic. So if you can just, and dude, bend it's always been a big deal, but it's more important in a league today where like teams that have good tackles have 330-pound 6'7" guys that can move, and it's hard to get low when you're that big, like realistically. So sometimes the better edge rushers these days are going to be the 240-pound guys who can just run.
You're not wrong. Giants at 3. I mean, this is where the conversation starts about, does Shedeur Sanders land here? And if he doesn't go here, I mean, you could see potential fall all the way to the 20s, because none of these teams really below. I don't think they're going to take a shot on him. To me, at the end of the day, I know that Dable and Joe are coaching and GMing for their jobs right now. They were basically put in the hot seat and publicly said, hey, we're coaching for our lives, and if we don't win, we're cooked. The Jameis signing at first, my first thoughts when I saw the Jameis signing was, okay, I think they're going to go the rookie route. But now there's conversations I think could potentially sign Russell Wilson. And if they sign both of those guys, I don't think there's any chance that they're going to draft Shedeur Sanders. I don't think you sign 2 veteran quarterbacks and bring in a rookie, and all of them have, not outside Shedeur, but those 2 have clear starting experience and realistically could be a starter on some low-end team. I don't think they really do that. So to me, I don't think they're going to get Russ. I think they're going to draft Shedeur Sanders. I'm not big on Shedeur. I'm really not. The arm strength concerns me. The lack of athleticism concerns me. There were multiple times where I saw him get caught by a Big 12 defensive lineman. Now you're going to the NFL where guys are bigger, stronger, faster than ever. Don't get me wrong. I think he'll be a solid quarterback. I think he could be like a Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, Brock Purdy. Like, you get him in the right situation, he's going to thrive. But is he going to be a guy where you say the chips are down, we need you to get us to the end consistently? Like, I don't know, like I don't want to use the top 4 example, but like a CJ Stroud, a Jaden Daniels, or a Justin Herbert, or something like on that level. I don't think he's that. So I'm low on Shedeur, but they're desperate for a quarterback, so I understand them taking him here.
I also don't think he's that level of QB, but I like the Brock Purdy comp a good bit. But I think he and Ward have a floor that's high enough that they can succeed with some issues up front just because of the way they can escape. I don't think he's as athletic maybe as some make him out to be, but I do think he has the eyes and the feel for the game that'll work. And I think he establishes a floor they need. And this is just the problem is this is a regime that's on its way out. If they don't win games, they need a quarterback. And it's just Russell Wilson's not coming in here and making this a 9-win team. Like, you have to like just kind of hope to God that your rookie is able to do it, I think, at this point. And then if we're moving on to the Patriots here, like I don't see I feel like this pick is not happening a lot in mocks. I don't see how they don't take Travis Hunter if he's on the board here. Because they have a need at corner. They could easily put him opposite of Christian Gonzalez. They have a need at receiver. They could do whatever the heck they want with this guy. Like, if there's a legit team who's like, oh, we're going to try and play him every snap of the game and he's going to play both ways, like, this is the most logical spot for him to do that because they seriously need like a number 2 corner and like an X receiver. So and maybe the Patriots and like Vrabel being in charge is like not a guy who wants to take the skill position at 4, but he's, by some measures the best player in the draft. I haven't really decided whether I like him or Abdul better. I know it's a little late to still be deciding on these things, but from like initial looks, like going into this year, like the high end of Travis Hunter is higher than any player in this draft. And I don't see how that makes it out of like the top 2 picks of non-quarterbacks in a draft where, the next position that's going to go here is has more, I don't want to call it red flags, but more question marks than the first 2 guys we talked about, of course.
100% agree. And the thing about Travis, I've always been on the train of, I think he can play both ways, just not full time. Mm-hmm. Because if he does play full time, I mean, people like to ignore it, but dude, he got hurt both the years at Colorado, and he missed games both years at Colorado. I believe the first year he missed 3 games, and then last year he missed 2. And those are 12-game sample sizes in the Big 12. Like I said, this is a 17-game sample size, plus the playoffs if you make it. And you're going up against just way stronger, way faster guys. Injuries happen way more often in the pros than they do in college, despite, just how many less teams there are and all this stuff. It's worrying. But at the end of the day, I think what the Patriots should do, play him full-time at wide receiver, have limited snaps on obvious passing downs at corner, and I think you can trust him there. And he won't be guarding the ones, which is the good thing, because that's why you have Gonzo to guard the ones. So that'll be nice. And something else I kind of found that was interesting, Travis had more receptions within 10 yards, like way more than I expected. Because I was expecting, whenever I watched the tape, I was like, yeah, a good amount of his shots are, further down the field. Ended up looking on PFF, and I believe it was 62% of his catches were within 10 yards or less, which I thought was strange because you look at a guy like, I know I'm not trying to compare the 2 as prospects, but I was just adding them all up. Like, compared to guys like Rome Odunze and Marvin Harrison Jr., they are way higher. So I don't know. It was just something interesting I saw because it felt like when I watched the tape, this guy was really not deep ball bust, but just some of the insane catches he made down the field were just ridiculous. So if I'm New England, I'm taking more advantage of that. Put him on some more goes, put him on some posts, some crossers, anything like that. Just get the ball down the field because his ability to track the ball when it's in the air. I mean, dude, he makes contested catches like he's 6'5", but he's only 6'1". Like, it's truly ridiculous.
Yeah, he's certainly a unique athlete, and like one of those guys. There's a reason why some of these guys at the top of the draft just don't test. It's like, I don't need to see it. I know.
You don't need to. I mean, he's, as an athlete, I think he's Champ Bailey, and I don't even think that's a stretch to say. I really don't. Jaguars at 5. To me, I think this is one of the most clear-cut picks of the draft. The Jaguars have spent a lot of money to fix a lot of key positions: wide receiver, offensive line, corner. There's one thing they haven't really fixed, and that's D tackle. Mason Graham is literally staring at them in the face. I think it's kind of hard to pass on that. I just think he has the highest floor of any prospect in this draft. I just think he's going to go to the NFL and just be good. And is he ever going to be like a top 3, 5 D tackle in the league? Probably not, just because he is a little undersized. But I can see a world where this guy's a consistent Pro Bowler. And in a weaker, top-heavy draft like this, I think you have to take it. And a combination of him, Eric Armstead, Trayvon Walker, Josh Hines Allen, that could be one of the best defensive lines in the NFL very, very quickly.
Yeah, and they've kind of ignored the interior, I would say, in the higher rounds of drafts recently. So it makes a lot of sense when they go in that direction. Raiders, we talked about this when you came on my show. Ted McMillan, I think, would really be a great fit here. I think they do need like a number one wideout, although I do like Jacoby Myers. I don't know how you passed on Ashton Jeanty here at 6. And like again, like as like a not like running backs matter that much guy, I think they are becoming more valuable. It's just this has been a well coached, good, well schemed up O-line. Didn't really look great last year because of a number of issues. I think involving a lack of good quarterback play, the team not being on the field enough, can't really wear down the defense when that's the case, and honestly not the best running back room. Although shout out Sincere McCormick, who helped me in fantasy big time this year. But there's not many running back prospects. I would say there's really 2 that I've ever been like, this guy absolutely is going to run for 1,000 yards, even if his O-line is just the worst we've ever seen. And it's him and Saquon. And I know Bijan was this great prospect too. I don't think the speed matches up to him with him as a prospect as these other guys between Saquon and Ashton have. And, another guy that I don't need to see the testing to know what he is. And I think, you have Geno Smith, you've made investments on the O-line, you got Brock Bowers, give him Ashton Jeanty. And at the very least, like this team is competing next year. I don't know if they're like a playoff team, but there are worlds that exist because of the unique talent you have now.
I saw on PFF the other day. Do you know what Ashton Jeanty's career rushing grade is? 99.1.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good, I would say.
It's up there.
I'd say it's pretty good. That's 3 points higher than the next, which is Jonathan Taylor, I believe. And I don't know if y'all remember Jonathan Taylor in college, but that was
pretty good company.
Special. So yeah, I mean GT there makes sense. The Pete Carroll thing, he's gonna want to run and pound the ball. And we talked about it on your show. I don't think this offensive line is really that bad. I think this is an average offensive line that could get good with maybe a couple small tweaks, but this offensive line
they did tweak it, right? They added Alex Kappa.
Oh God.
Well, and it's competition.
I don't know if you know he had the triple crown for the line, but not the good one. Unfortunately, he led the league in sacks allowed, pressures allowed, and hurries allowed. So,
but he's been in Cincinnati, which is where offensive linemen go to die. Before that, he was doing pretty well in Tampa. But between him and they're going to move Jackson Powers Johnson to center full time. Yeah. I like Dylan Parham. DJ Glaze showed some good things last year. I think there's a world where they add a little more there in the draft. They're in a much better. A lot of teams are in bad O-line situations. The Raiders, to me, it's like maybe their strongest position group. You could make an argument D-line with Max Crosby alone, but it's if they're going to build something unit wise, the O-line is where. And we could talk about Will Campbell here as well as a guy they go after. I think this is a rare running back talent that you could draft him, take a guard in the second round, and feel good about it.
Yeah, take a Donovan Jackson or something in the second round. I think that'd be smart. Jets here at 7. To me, I think this is an obvious pick. I know a lot of people have been mocking Tyler Warren here. To me, you lose Devontae Adams. Allen Lazard is going to get traded if he hasn't already. I think you go with Ted McMillan here. I don't know, man. I think people are kind of overthinking it. I've seen him falling in the 20s in mocks, and I wasn't even the biggest Ted McMillan fan over the summer, but he's really grown on me. The separation stuff, I think, is complete blasphemy. This guy is a good separator for someone who is 6'5" with a little bit of a skinnier build. I'm pretty sure he's about 215, maybe 210, kind of like a Marvin Harrison build, except a little bit taller, like kind of that slenderish build. But I think he's the best contested catcher in the draft, and I think that means something when Travis Hunter is in this draft and we see him make all these crazy catches as well. Just sure hands, and the quarterback play that he dealt with this year with Noah Fafita, bad. It was really bad. And I'm pretty sure I saw a stat. The next closest person who led that team in yards had like 450, and he had over 1,200. So producing on that is pretty good. I think he's insane after the catch for someone that size too. He shows some nice shiftiness. He has some decent speed as well, despite what the 40 time says. I like Ted. I like Ted a lot. I'm comfortable with taking him in the top 10. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Yet to be convinced on like what he can't do. Like, I guess the answer to that is he's not able to run away from people, but it's also like, yeah, but he's 6'5", 215 and a long strider. Like, those guys aren't always running away from people, A. B, by the virtue of just like this guy's a long strider, there are going to be plays where his speed stuns people and he just breaks away. Like,
Yeah.
Even if he ran like a 4.7, that's the case. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. It happens with Devontae Adams is not a big guy, but it happens with him sometimes. And that guy didn't run very fast either. Like, it's just, I think he's definitely one of the better players in this draft. He's my wide receiver 1. I don't understand why people have him falling. I think it's a little silly. Maybe it's prospect fatigue. It's the thin frame, maybe, which, is something you can obviously deal with. I think he's a guy that, the ease of how he plays shows up on film. If you go back to like the fundamentals of scouting, it's like that guy's like doesn't have to try very hard to be like one of the better players on the field. So, I think it's a good fit for them at 7. There's a number of ways that go that I feel good about, and I wouldn't be upset with that one at all.
Yep, I agree.
Carolina I've had trouble with because it's been consistently like offensive positions are available at this pick. And I don't think their offense is in a terrible spot, to be honest with you. More so than anything, their issue is that the defensive players, like at this point, tend to be off the board that I'm looking for. Now it's not always the case. I'm trying to pull up players that are going to be available. I know you have them on your board, but I want to be able to look at them as well. So they got Jahdae Barron as like the top guy, right? Let me see really quick here.
Got Jahdae Barron, Malachi Starks, Jahad Campbell, Mike Green, James Pierce, and edge rusher. Maybe Shamar Stewart goes this high.
Yeah, so it's like a number of edge players that I feel more comfortable with maybe at later picks. And then it's also like I love Will Johnson. It doesn't seem like he's going to go this high. No. And I don't know if this is the team to like schematically to take him, just because they tend to be like a man to quarters team. And like, it's like, and maybe he can be like a JC Horn type player. I don't know that like, if you're going to make a pick in the top 10 of the draft, if you want to ask a guy to like play 2 different styles of coverage consistently, which is kind of what you're doing with that. It's just a little bit harder of a transition, I think, for a college player. Although they did play in a pro system, I would take Will Johnson here. I don't know that the Panthers are going to. So I don't know how we really want to do this. I would gladly do it.
I say if you want to take Will Johnson, go ahead.
I think they have to get better on defense. Like I like Mike Jackson. I think he shouldn't be like your clear starter on the outside. And I do think with another year, what they have offensively, what they've built there with Bryce Young and Canales, and I just think they're in a good direction. Like they just need more defensive talent to support that side of the ball because they're going to be better on offense. It's just that defensive starting lineup is a little bit troublesome to me.
And also the amount of young players they have in offense, Bryce Young going into year 3, Jalen Coker in year 2, JT Sanders year 2, Xavier Legette year 2. Like they have young talent that let's just let them develop. There's no need to force a Ted McMillan, in my opinion, or anything like that, or like a Luther Burden or a Matthew Golden. You don't need to force that. I think just let these guys develop, take something on defense, whether that's corner. I could even see possibly linebacker, defensive line, something like that. That's the route I would go. I'm not forcing an offensive skill position player. Maybe you can convince me to take Will Campbell, but even then, I think I'd rather lean defense at that point. Saints here at 9. This has always been such a weird team. I've always mocked them Tyler Warren here, but they re-signed Juwan Johnson, which tells me I don't think they're going to go that direction. Don't think a wide receiver here is worth taking if you're not Ted McMillan or Travis Hunter, and they're both gone. The pass rush is really bad. Cam Jordan's getting up there in age. Brian Brzee has been horrible. I mean, his first full year starting, I believe, last year, I believe he was the lowest graded D-tackle on PFF. Horrible. So, I don't know. I could see running back, but Gene T's gone. I know there's been some reports that Amari Hamler could sneak his way into the top 15. I don't think he sneaks his way into the top 10. Could see Will Campbell. Maybe move Troy Fatanu to a more natural position, and you could possibly slide Will Campbell outside at left tackle. Plus Louisiana. Yeah, I'm going to go Will Campbell. Um, I know some people still kind of believe in Trevor Penning. Trust me, I'm a UNI kid. It's time to give it up. I mean, he has not had any type of progression as a pass rusher. The footwork, he just doesn't have the speed to make up for it, which is crazy considering he tested as one of the most athletic tackles in RAS history. Just doesn't really have the speed to recover from that. And, I don't really want to attack him as a person, but I've been told some stories about him at UNI that are not the best. So I don't know. I think it's time to move on. Will Campbell is about as safe and as an offensive line prospect as you're going to find. Plus, Louisiana kid, just go ahead and do it.
Yeah, this is a front office that's really cared about the O-line. They love versatile guys, which is what Campbell's going to be. I think Penning, even you could try guard. The big guard thing has become more of the thing in the league where they're just like, well, what are we going to do? Like, just kick this guy off the team or give him a shot. Like, so they could put Penning inside, even if Campbell ends up playing guard. Like, this is a pick that I've mocked a lot. I think that if he's there, I think the Saints will take him. So I'm up with the Bears now, and they're an interesting one because I know they've added a lot at the O-line. I don't know that means they're done just because, Jonah Jackson to me, maybe not a long-term solution. Neither is Joe Thuney. They will eventually need to get more pieces there. I think potentially maybe they target guys in the second round, specifically around that. I love the Tyler Warren fit here. Like, I've just been all over that for this team. I think that I know Cole Kmet has been there. He's been solid. And I think he's more of a flex option if you bring in Warren, a guy who can block more. And I just think the way that Ben Johnson wants to run his offense, Warren and kind of the Sam Laporta role just make so much sense to me. And you can run out of 12 personnel a ton. And if you don't really feel like you have a better slot receiver than Cole Kmet, fine, let's do that. But this is ultimately like a team that is going to be offense first. They're going to try and find an identity early on. Clearly, like they tried to build up that O-line, try to run the ball. I think they'll probably find a running back at some point in this draft too. But I just think that this is like, if you're Ben Johnson and you see this unique, like unicorn type weapon on the board, like I don't see how like you can't add that to your offense.
He's so much fun. he's the classic inline tight end, man, and he also has that bit of athleticism of the newer tight end in that bigger body, about 6'5", 265. My one problem with him over summer, and I loved him over the summer, but I was like, dude, he can't catch the ball. I'm pretty sure last year alone he had 8 drops. This year, 1. Like, ridiculous, dude. I mean, the jump he had with his hands, some of the catches he made was just ridiculous. I'm all in on Tyler Warren. I'm all in on it.
And another underrated thing here is I think what you're talking about, like a lot of those contested catches he had and just like crazy catches were also off script. And I just think him and Caleb Williams is just like a match made in heaven. Like I think that if you're trying to develop Caleb and you need a weapon like built for him, I think Tyler Warren is like as good of a safety valve for that guy as you could find.
And you want to talk about, I mean, he's going to have 2 weapons on that team, Roman Dunze and Tyler Warren, that you are not going to have to worry about dropping the football, which a quarterback is always going to feel good about that. And I'm big on the Dunze next year. I think he could be the wide receiver one on that team. But I'm up with the Niners here at 11. I mean, I have people that are close within the Niners, and all they keep telling me is that the Niners do not value offensive line in the first round. They're not going to take a tackle. They're not going to take a guard. I'm big on Kelvin Banks. He's my OT1, but I've also accepted the fact that I don't think he's going to go this high. And I've also accepted the fact that Armand Membu is probably going to go higher than him, which I don't love, but I can see. For me, it's either Jahdae Barron or Armand Membu. And I think despite with all the people telling me all that stuff, I don't know how you can't go Membu, or it's just some type of offensive lineman, man. I mean, the reason they lost the Super Bowl against the Chiefs a couple years ago was because they had to put George Kittle as a blocker because their tackles or the right tackle couldn't do anything. And then, L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie were able to hold their own against Ayuk and Debo. And after that, things were just kind of locked from there. The Niners offense wasn't the same as it has been all year, considering Brock Purdy at one point was in MVP conversations and CMC won the O-Play. So I think you have to go tackle. This is a high ceiling tackle who I just dropped the scouting report on the other day. I don't know if you've watched him, Nick. His footwork is absurd. He has some of the quickest feet I've ever seen from an offensive tackle. And there's some type of crazy stat where I forget exactly what it was. It was like a vertical jump, and he also run a 4.8. He's like one of the few offensive tackles to ever do it. It's like him, Tristan Wirfs, and I think the other one was Trent Williams or something like that. Like freak of an athlete. And the technique took a huge jump this year. I watched him over the summer. Wasn't that impressed, but I did come away with if he does take that jump, he can definitely find his way in the first round. He took the jump. Still think there's some hand placement issues that he needs to work on, but I think it's worth it, and I trust the Niners when it comes to this. And you're also learning behind Trent Williams. There could be worse things.
So we're at the point of the draft where like I hear enough from people that I've like formed opinions before watching film, and O-line unfortunately is a position group that I haven't really fully dived into yet.
Yeah.
I love what I'm hearing about Armin Membu. I think there's like two guys that immediately like you get the word like clean about their tape. I love when I hear the word clean because it's just like there's not much to like talk about because it's just like they're not getting beat and they're doing their job. And him and Will Campbell come up a lot. I know you're more of a Kelvin Banks guy, but it's just I think the consensus is that Campbell is kind of the poster child for that in this draft. Yeah. And just I think the thing with Membu is like he didn't look physically to me like what he was on tape, and then he weighed in as like this humongous guy with the arms that hit the threshold you're looking for, and then tested out amazingly. I would be stunned if he makes it to 11. I'm going to be honest with you. I think he's going pretty high in this draft, honestly. I don't think guys with those measurables after like a year with, even if it's 1 year, like a good year of tape in the SEC like this, even at right tackle, like those guys just don't fall past. Maybe he makes it to 11, but like 12 is like his floor. Like I don't see how he possibly gets past Dallas.
Interesting. Yeah, I can see it.
And that's like not a knock on the other guys. It's just this is not a great draft. They talked about it. It's top heavy, and you don't have physical. And even like some of the guys at the top, like there are some physical tool question marks about some of the better players, like whether they should exist or not. And there's not with Armin Membu because of what he did at the combine.
I mean, I told someone earlier, Travis Hunter is my number 1 player in this year's draft. If he was in last year's draft, I think he's probably my number 5 or number 6.
Yeah,
like truly, I think Caleb is better than him. I'd take Drake May over him. I would take Marvin. I would take Joe Alt, and I would maybe even take Brock Bowers. Like, this draft is just not very top heavy. And I think the thing about this draft is players like 20 to 60. I think that's where the real strength, that day 2 range of the draft is. I think you're going to get some good quality starters, but in terms of like blue chip talents, not many.
This isn't like the worst draft I've ever seen. It's definitely like below average. I think the problem is we're coming off a draft which is like up there with the 2020, 2021. I don't know where was the Trevor Lawrence draft where
2021,
where it was just like every non-quarterback is like a multi-time Pro Bowler. Like that those two drafts are two of the best drafts in recent memory, and we got to go back to like the JJ Watt draft before that to like have one on that level. So when you're coming off of that, it's kind of hard to compare, but this is not that draft in comparison.
I'll just say this real quick before we move on to Dallas. If you think this draft is bad, next year's draft could be worse. we'll get to that in a year from now, but just be thankful about this year's draft because
this is the COVID year adjustment that's happening here. We're gonna have a year of lacking a little bit. We had all these players kind of waiting a couple extra semesters to get out of school. All right, Dallas. So I think they're gonna take Kelvin Banks in this situation.
Ooh, really?
I think they are also a team kind of like New Orleans who cannot fathom a situation where they are not above average on the O-line. And with Zach Martin retiring, I think they are going to like sprint whatever the best guard prospect they can get in there, whether they maybe want to put him at tackle and move someone else inside or whatever. This team has so commonly just hit the head on the table when it comes to offensive line talent in the first round. And I can't imagine that they won't do it again. And look, they might think like, who was the guy, Tyler Guyton they took last year? Like he was solid. Maybe they think they can upgrade on that, or Terrence Steele was better as a swing tackle. They've been playing right tackle with him, and maybe they think they can find a guard replacement. I know they have Brock Hoffman right there right now. I don't know if maybe they put Hoffman at center and move BB out the guard and put Banks at right tackle. Like there's things they could do. This is a team, there's a few teams in the league I think of where it's like they will pound the table for O-line when they need it. It's like Philly, Dallas, the Saints. I would say, the Chiefs, honestly, like even though they haven't really been hitting on tackle, but they've like gone after the Ravens, the Lions recently. These are all teams that are generally competitive outside of New Orleans because they've spent all their money. But it's just this is a consistent strategy the Cowboys have, and I think that I'm very confident, unless somehow Genty falls to 12, that they will be going O-line with a 12th pick.
Never thought about that. Honestly, never did. I was just kind of thought of that as a second thought just because I think the run defense needs improvement. But no, you're not wrong. They definitely need some, especially with Zach Martin retiring. I mean, you're going to need some offensive line help. Whether you want to put Hoffman inside, you want to move BB, move Tyler Smith, whatever, and then put Kelvin at right tackle, have Terrence Steele be that swing tackle. No, I think all those options are in play, and it's hard to pass on to Kelvin Banks. To me, he's a top 8 player in this draft, so I'm definitely higher on him than most. So I'd be totally fine with this pick. Dolphins at 13. I mean, this is usually a spot where I go Member or Banks just because they need offensive line help so bad, especially with that zone blocking scheme. I think those are two guys that can fit in very well. Not a big fan of Tyler Booker this high. I'm not going to take him this high, even though the guard need is very much real. I think you could possibly attack guard in the second round with maybe Donovan Jackson or whoever else available in the second round. Maybe there's a Gray's able fall or something like that. You cut Kendall Fuller. Jalen Ramsey is your Stevie one, who's good but old. Cam Smith didn't work out, which sucks because I loved Cam Smith, but he hasn't worked out. What's the rest of their depth chart looking like at corner? They lost Javon Holland too, so they're going to lose some presence in the nickel.
That Effie Melifonwu, who's probably playing, strong safety. Yeah. They definitely need like a deep safety type. Cater Co, who's kind of a solid nickel for them still, right?
So we think it. I mean,
I have Storm Duck.
Here's my question: are we going to lean more on the nickel side, or are we going to lean more on the deep high side? Because if we're going to lean more on the nickel, I'm going to take Barron. But if we're
going to need both.
So it's basically Malachi or Barron. It's just, do I want a nickel more, or do I want someone who can play out deep more? And I think the slot position has been cut. I think this may be a hot take, and I'm going to make a TikTok about it. I think the slot position is just as valuable, if not more valuable, than a boundary. Like, I truly believe a slot position. I mean, we've seen the emergence of it over recent drafts. I mean, we saw it with Trent McDuffie, Brian Branch last year, who just won the Super Bowl and who was a big factor on why, Cooper DeJean. Like, I think the slot position has been incredibly undervalued, and now I think it's finally having the rise that it deserves. So because of that, I think I'm going to go Barron. He reminds me so much of Brian Branch. He may not be – I think he's a better athlete than Branch because Branch – the one thing about him was the reason he fell the second round was, he didn't have the greatest testing. Tested like a 74 percentile athlete. But just the instincts, the tackling, the coverage were so good that it didn't matter. And now he's a Pro Bowler, borderline All-Pro. I think Jade can have something similar to that. And like I've said, we've seen a big run on – there's been a slot player every single year that has been dominant. McDuffie, Branch, DeJean. I think this year it could be Jade Barron.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's what I would go with here as well. I love Malachi Starks. I think I watch him and I just feel the way I do about many safeties in the past that haven't been Kyle Hamilton, where I'm like, this is such a good player, but he's not 6'4", 220, so they're going to take him in the 30s, I would take Malachi higher than he's going to go, but I'm just alerting people on draft night. Like, if you're picking the 20s and you want a safety, he's probably going to be available for you. So,
look at you, Minnesota.
Yeah. Really.
We'll
so moving on from this, we're up with the Colts are a weird one, man, because I did like a whole team needs video for both.
I watched it. Yeah, I watched
Thank you. Appreciate it. The Colts are like, they just have a lot of like, I feel good about average development players that I don't like want to replace because I think they can do something, but they haven't shown enough yet at like every position group. And it's like, I don't know like where you target in that situation when, quarterback is like not making the jump for you and that you really need it to happen. And maybe you have a coaching problem. Maybe they're having trouble developing players. I have liked what Shane Steichen's done, at least up until like mid-season last year. They're in a weird spot, and I think they really just need to like hit on a pick. So, if it's me here, like Malachi Stark stands out like as a guy that like really I think is just high floor, and you're probably going to take and be a great player. I don't think it's going to happen, so I'm not going to make that pick because, again, I need to stick to this. Like, I'm telling you, he's going to fall because this league just does not value safety position out of guys that aren't, like, uniquely physically talented in ways that, like, Jamal Adams and even Kyle Hamilton, who fell way too far, were, right? I mean, heck, the Eagles took Jordan Davis ahead of him. The Eagles, who are, like, this world-renowned drafting team, like, people in, like, freaking like New Zealand know how good the Eagles are drafting. I
want to bring something up real quick. When they just super quick, do you think that fall could happen with Caleb Downs, considering he is only about 6 foot tall?
It could. I think he
Which
might.
would break my heart because I think Caleb Downs truly is on that Kyle Hamilton level.
I think he might still go top 20 the way Hamilton did, just because he's been in college for so long and people have known who he is, and he's competed at high levels and won championships, and he's just got like these accolades. And unfortunately, like as much as like I try to be a detractor from like, oh, he won championships, so like he's a great player, like that is going to help him even at the NFL level. Like they care about that stuff. So I don't think as much, but it could. Like I'm not like I don't think he's going top 8 picks, like just like off the bat, even though he's probably one of the better players in the draft next year, because teams just for some reason like
in the draft next year. He might be. I mean, we need to get to it, but
yeah, I guess I don't know how bad next year is yet.
I mean, I've done a little bit of research. It's not looking pretty. That's what I will say.
Then maybe he will go higher than I think, but it's bewildered me over and over how some of these guys, specifically what's the Lions, like Brian Branch and Trayvon Merrick, and like I know Merrick hasn't turned into like an all-star player, but he's been pretty good in the Raiders secondary. That's just been overwhelmingly bad like the past like 14 years. So like I don't feel like wrong about that first round grade that I gave on him. And again, Kyle Hamilton, we all had as like top 3 player in that draft. He falls all the way to 14. So I don't know. I don't think Starks ends up going here, even though he probably is the guy that I think hits. Looking at what they've done in the past, like this is a team that really cares about athletic traits, and I think they're going to figure that edge is a position they need to add to more after losing Dio Adengbo. They're a team that likes to carry a lot of guys at that position group. And just looking at edge right now, like we have the full allotment of draft available guys. And I'm going to be honest with you, like I don't think I see this fit very often, but if there's a team that like takes a James Pierce earlier than people expect, I think this is the team that does it.
Okay. I can see that. I can see James Pierce. I'm not a Pierce guy, by the way. I don't know. I think he's fine, but I think the bend gets way overrated, and I don't know. I don't think he's as bendy as guys like Mike Green or Abdul Carter, and he's significantly smaller than both of them. So
I do like Mike Green as well. I mean, we've discussed off camera, like there's some reasons why Mike Green might fall. I mean, people at this point know it's on Twitter, like that he might fall. I do like Mike Green quite a bit too. I just don't think he's their type, to be honest with you. I think they like to have bigger guys, and James Pierce isn't this like massive edge rusher, but he is a power player. I think he can lean on that first, and that's what the Colts value. And I think looking at the guys on the board, like who do I trust the most to do that? Unless you really feel good about Jahad Campbell as like an edge first. I don't think Shamar Stewart, like as a non-production guy, fits their draft evals. Although I wouldn't be shocked if he was their guy either. And Michael Williams is kind of in a similar boat in terms of just like being a raw guy, right?
Right. I feel. All right. Falcons up next. I think this is the floor of where this guy goes. And I'm not very high on him. I have an early second round grade on him, but I accept that he's going to go in the first round. It's going to be Jalen Walker. I don't know, man. I thought the Micah comps at first were kind of ridiculous. He doesn't have any type of plan. He has no power at all. The run defense wasn't great. And quite honestly, his best snaps as a pass rusher, I thought was as a blitzer, not as someone rushing off the edge. So I don't know. There's a lot of people who think he's going to go top 10, and he very well could. I'm not saying the ceiling isn't there. Like, yeah, I think he could be like something better than what we saw of like a Hassan Reddick. And Hassan Reddick at one point, wasn't he top 5 in the league at sacks one year? That one dominant Philly year with him and Josh Sweat both combined for like almost 30 sacks each. Like that one crazy year where the Eagles broke the sack record. He could be something like that, man, but the coverage isn't good. I don't think the instincts are very good. No power, no pass rush plan. He needs a lot of work. People always highlight the Texas game. That was mainly on Quinn's pocket presence being abysmal. I don't think there was a single time where Kelvin truly got beat one-on-one against Jalen Walker. So, I don't know, man. I like Jalen Walker, but I think the top 10, top 15 stuff for me, I'm good. But I don't know if you've watched him at all, but for me, I'm good.
I think correctly a lot of people have identified his ceiling as like Frankie Lulu. And he's going to have to be – he's not going to be a full-time edge player, in my opinion. Like, I don't think – you can do that at that size in the league still. I think Nolan Smith has made it work, and he's had to put on
Hassan's made it work, I guess.
And even he's like a little bigger. Like Nolan Smith is a freak. Like it's just not he's we're talking about a 5-star like number 1 overall recruit like guy who just like with his shirt off is different. Like and I think Jalen Walker, like all these guys are that to some extent, but yeah, I think that you have to have some sort of hybrid role planned out for this guy. And I agree with you. I think to some extent, like he's been a big hustle guy and racks up production in that way, and I think that's valuable. I think Will Anderson was kind of like that type of player went in college as well. He just had a little more like power juice to him. And the thing about Walker is like his hustle is like he's got great chase down ability. The difference between him and Luvu for me is Luvu is just like a psychopath and wants to kill everybody. So, which, like some guys get to the NFL and they figure that out. So maybe that happens with Walker. All these guys could do that. It's a culture thing.
Just a mentality thing. Yeah.
But, he's an interesting one. And whatever, he could go very high. We've heard some things about like him, just like the Patriots.
I've heard, dude, like, DJ mocked him to the Jags at 5.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god,
they're a team that I wouldn't be stunned if did it.
Dude, first time GM does something like that. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I guess I do like what their GM has said so far in interviews. Maybe they won't do that, but you have to have a really specific plan. You're going to be kind of on an island if you take this guy pretty high in the draft, and I wouldn't be stunned if the Falcons kind of see him as like I think that is a team that could do this. Your Cardinals are up.
My Cardinals.
So I know you signed Josh Sweat,
which is
great. Love Josh Sweat.
I just want to throw this out real quick. That contract, I'm so happy about it. Because I was scared we were going to pay him $20 a year or even more. And with all the recent edge contract, dude, he's the 17th highest paid edge rusher in the league right now.
Yeah, it's a good contract.
That's a great contract.
Good deal. And back with his old defensive coordinator. Look, Gannon is going to scheme it up a little bit. I think it's going to work for them. Looking at this roster, like straight up and like talking about what their weaknesses are, defensively, like I don't think there are a lot of places outside of maybe like safety where you're like, I could see them not wanting to add there. They could get another outside corner. They could upgrade at linebacker. They definitely need interior D-line. And I still think like just because of the way this defense works, like they want to have as many edge bodies as they can. And I just, BJ Ojulari, I believe, but the injuries scare me a little bit.
Yeah, that's a bad.
So the two guys I'm looking at here are Jahad Campbell and Mike Green, right?
Okay.
And I'm not as high on Jahad Campbell. I think he's interesting. I don't see how you could have him like ahead of James Pierce. I think they're like very similar type rushers, and one guy like does it full time, the other guy doesn't. Unless you like really want a guy who can play linebacker too, which I guess is a growing thing now that Jalen Walker is also popular. I'm going to give them Mike Green because I think he is like their type. He fits like the Reddick mold. And I do think like if you're going to play that like 2-4-5 with stand-up edge rushers and put him and Sweat on opposite sides, like that's a potential to be very, very productive pass rush for Jonathan Gannon after years of trying to find one. I think they need to give themselves an identity on defense and just finding these type of players. I don't care if he's like, you think he's very similar to Josh Sweat, because I think you could make that comparison. I think that Jonathan Gannon just needs good players and just says, let's get out there and hit some quarterbacks,
Yeah. I don't think he's Josh Sweat. I mean, I comped him in Brian Burns. I don't know how you feel about that. And it feels like I comp every speedy, bendy, 250-pound edge rusher to Brian Burns, but it's just so easy, so I just do it all the time.
Sweat has added weight in the
Sweat has, yeah.
He's changed his game a little bit, hasn't he? So yeah,
he's about 265 or something.
Yeah,
like
after the injury, he's kind of had to become a slightly different player, but even so, like you're talking about a guy who's a veteran at this point who has played the way Mike Green's going to be trying to play getting in the league. Like you could certainly find a situation where you could replicate a little bit of what Philly's done. I don't know if you're going to quite get to that point, but they're going to Gannon's going to be banging the table for more defensive line talent. They don't have enough still.
Yeah, and I think there's a chance they could take Will Johnson if he falls this far. There's been a lot of rumors about that. I think he would fit this scheme perfectly as a team that isn't really going to run a lot of man. And this team needs a boundary court, just a pure boundary, because Max Melton, love the kid, freak of an athlete, one of the freakiest athletes I've seen, but kind of more of a slot. They're going to try him out at boundary just because they have Garrett Williams, who in my opinion is already one of the better slots in the league. I think that could be in play, but he's off the board, so I think D-line has to be the option. If you would have taken Jahad Campbell, though, I would like it, but, Cardinal fans would have so much PTSD with all the linebackers that they take over the last few years.
They can't. I agree.
It's been bad. Isaiah Simmons, woof, and Zaven Collins. Ugh. Hassan Reddick was good, and then we got one good year of him out of edge, and then Steve Keim decided to let him walk for free, but I don't know, man. I love the Mike Green pick. I just want to throw that out there. I love this pick. If we're ranking guys who I want the most, he'd probably be the second guy I want the most. Like, truly, I love Mike Green that much. insane speed, man. I mean, speed, bend, and I think Arizona does kind of need that right now. I like Baron Browning, but like we talked about earlier, rotational guy. I like Zayvon Collins. He's not there yet, and I still think he's a rotational guy. I think Mike Green gives you day one a good presence as a pass rusher, and I think him and Josh Sweat eventually could become obviously not the best, but one of the better edge doers in the league. And Gannon can make it work. So I like that pick a lot. I could also see a pure three tech right now because it's kind of strange. I don't really know who's going to be that three tech guy. I know it's not going to be Dalvin Tomlinson, and I know it's not going to be Darius Robinson. So that's why I kind of wonder who is it going to be. Is it going to be Justin Jones? Like, not great. Could be Walter Nolan, Kenneth Grant there, but either way, love the Mike Green pick. I'm all in on that. Bengals at 17. I'm going to keep this pretty chalk and dried up. I'm just going to give him Walter Nolan. Dude, this guy is so twitchy. When I first watched him at A&M over the summer, I was like, okay, so this guy doesn't know how to play football, which sucks, but he is so gifted. So unbelievably gifted. And then he leaves A&M, goes to Ole Miss, and so much changed. I mean, the hand placement got a lot better. The eye discipline got a lot better. He was one of the best run defenders in the country last year. I believe he had the third highest run defense grade in the country. I mean, this guy is just a super athlete. Like, there's some websites had him as the number one overall recruit ahead of Travis Hunter. That's how good of an athlete and that's how twitchy this guy is. And he is not, he's not completely polished at all. He still needs work, but day one, you're going to get a good run defender. And if this guy can just learn how to control himself and how to just consistently have a bag or something to pre-plan on, dude, we could be looking at a top 3D tackle in the league. I think that's truly how high his ceiling is. And this team just lost DJ Reader, like last offseason or 2 off seasons ago. So they're going to need some more D-line help. And their first-round picks have not been hitting recently. I will say that. Dax Hill, not great. Myles Murphy, not great. We'll see what happens with Amarius Mims. But I think this could be a good start foundation on that D-line when you could be losing Trey Hendrickson. And Sam Hubbard also just retired. So you need some D-line talent there.
There's another player I'd consider for the Cardinals too, as you just talked about 3 tech, and there's a
guy he's my number one, by the way. I don't know.
He's your number one, really? Okay.
I have Walter Nolan as my 11th best player in the class. I love Walter Nolan.
I think he's good. I haven't fully fleshed out my D-line rankings. I think for some reason he's stock's slipping in this draft. It could be an off-field thing. I think I've heard a little buzz about that. I don't know exactly what it is, but he might have his demand might draw him up the board anyways, because there's just not a lot of pure like 3 techs in this draft,
No, there's not.
And that like it's a lot of nose tackle types. Like we're gonna get to Kenneth Grant at some point, and it's just like teams need that because we're finding the middle of the field is where teams are getting gashed by these running attacks. It just all of a sudden popped up last year, and it's because we're missing those pieces in the middle of the defense. And it's a lot of these guys that get drafted like Darius Robinson end up being like edge players, So he probably will be high in demand. Seattle is impossible, dude. Like they just need
wide receiver, offensive line, D line, safety.
Like I don't even know, man. Like
I hate this roster. I'm sorry, and I don't want to sound biased, but I just don't like this roster.
I haven't liked the direction for a while. I used to give Pete Carroll a lot of tough reviews of drafts, years back, and I think he had a couple good ones before he left, and it's like they got rid of him like right when he started doing good things again, which is strange to me. And just rebooting at quarterback is got to be like my least favorite move of the offseason, just because I really am like a big fan of Geno Smith. Now I'm I don't get it, man. Like, and I don't even dislike Sam Darnold. It's just I don't know why he went there of all places. Like, I know they may have given him a bag, but it's just they aren't really prepared in terms of weapons. I know they got Kupp and they got JSN, who are like the same player, and maybe that makes something new out of those. I think JSN becomes an outside guy that we all thought he could be at some point and really develops. And I do love him, but Kupp's a little older. He's had some injury issues. Production's dipped. O-line is dreadful. I think they've done some good things on defense. This is the tough thing here is like, I think you got to like force the Tyler Booker pick here because I don't like know what else you do, Like you
there's nothing else you really can do.
You can't do this quarterback move and be like, we're all in on Sam Darnold and then put him out there and he's just getting rocked every snap. Like if that happens, like you're all getting fired. You have to have some sort of plan up front, and that starts here. Like you got to take an offensive lineman at 18 that fits what you need.
I thought it was dumb whenever they let Damian Lewis walk, especially when that interior offensive line was already bad enough, and then they let him walk, and it ended up being maybe the worst in football last year. I know Chicago and Houston has an argument too, but those three were bad, and Seattle was up there too.
Yeah, it's
Tyler Booker. I don't know how you feel about Tyler Booker. I think Tyler Booker is just going to be a solid, good player.
Yeah,
I don't, Pro Bowler, probably not. Is
maybe
he going to be like a household name? Probably not.
He's like Damian Lewis, great. Like he's a solid guard. Like you can't complain about this pick in my like. Maybe it's a little high, but it's like all right, you're gonna hit. You're gonna have the O-line's gonna have a higher floor. But it's just I think about last year, like how little people talked about Geno Smith just avoiding pressure with his legs all year long. Like Geno Smith had like multiple 30, 20-yard touchdown runs last year, and like I don't think he had one in his career before last year. Like that's just he is a good athlete, and we never had to see it because he never had an O-line this bad. And now you're putting Sam Darnold back there, who the last time we saw him was like incapable of dealing with what the Rams were putting up against him in terms of pressure.
Yeah, and now it's dude. The moment Darisaw went down, it just fell off a cliff.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
I'm not a big Darnold guy either. Don't get it twisted. I do not think if Seattle does not make serious upgrades to that offensive line, which I want to put this out. I like Charles Cross, good player. He had a nice breakout year last year. Abe Lucas has not been able to stay healthy. The interior offensive line, like, yeah, Tyler Booker is going to help, but I think they needed more than that. I don't think Seattle's going to be that good next year. I really don't. But luckily for them, they do have a lot of picks, so maybe they can change my mind on that. They do have a decent amount of picks. I know they got a second round from the Steelers from the DK trade. Bucks at 19. This has always been, for me, slam dunk Jahdae Barron, but at this point, I don't think he's fallen that far. I really don't. So, to me, I think you can get someone next to next to Levante David. You can also get some edge presence. I love Jahad Campbell here. A lot of people have been mocking him there. That's probably the consensus at this point. Jahad Campbell to the Bucks. I see it all the time. So I love the fit. I mean, Devin White didn't really work out. He had a couple of nice games during that one playoff run. But outside of that, it's always been Levante David. Devin, I mean, I know you've been very anti-Devin White. We've had those conversations before.
Cooked on Twitter about that. Ended up being right anyways. Sometimes you're just getting fried on Twitter and you're right anyways 5 years later.
Exactly. So, yeah, hopefully this can be a better replacement. I'm all in for this pick. I don't think I really need to explain much else. I mean, he's just freak of an athlete. Thought the coverage was great. Thought he had some snaps at edge that looked promising. I mean, he was a former 5-star edge rusher in college, and then he lost a little bit of weight and then went out to linebacker and had a breakout year this year. So I'm all in on Jahad Campbell.
Yeah, I think it's a great fit. A nice, fun, toolsy player in terms of different things he can do for Todd Bowles, and give him a couple of years with Levante David, maybe just one, but a little bit to learn under the veteran. And they have some young players at linebacker, but they definitely need to get some juice there. And I think this is an ideal fit for him at least. Denver. I know they go and they get Evan Ingram. So I don't know that this is like a Colston Loveland team anymore.
I don't think so.
He's just too simple. Like Loveland's maybe not like exactly like Ingram in that he's like Ingram is just a flex tight end. You're not really putting him in line and just you're on the ball blocking. But Loveland can probably do a little bit of that, but he's not so much better at it that you're like, okay, well, you're going to be our 12 personnel wide tight end, and Evan Ingram's going to be our like that. I don't think that really works for what they're trying to do. So for me, like I have said for them, it's like they need another edge body probably at some point, and then it's still like you're trying to find weapons that allow you to be kind of versatile in terms of your personnel. And so I'm going to look at the wide receiver board a little bit. I'm going to look at the tight end board, the running back board a little bit. I know like maybe this is not the point to go for the running back. I'm not high enough on some of these guys to like. I do like Hampton and Caleb Johnson. I think I'd be okay with him at the top of day 2. You could talk me into some of these teams maybe, but and Denver's really talented. So I wouldn't be shocked if they go Hampton here. I'm not going to do that. But if I were to make a prediction right now, what's going to happen on draft night if we have a board that falls this way, that's probably what they're going to do, right? Looking at edge bodies, I don't know that any of these guys like really something that I feel confident that they're going to go with. Matthew Golden's too similar to like. I mean, he's a lot better than Marvin Mims, but I just don't know that you like double down on a guy that's like more of a vertical receiver. I think they're really going to like both of the slot guys, Igbuka and Burden. And the only reason I'm like getting pause on it is like I don't think either of these guys like have super high draft demand. Like I think both of them probably go low, a little lower than people think. But I do think Peyton just likes, a versatile weapon like Burden or a guy that just does his job like Igbuka. I'm going to lean Burden here because I think he does kind of fit that idea of them being more versatile in terms of their personnel and their formations and doing different stuff. And I just could see them having a plan on offense where he becomes like a focal point of what they're trying to do.
I think he's one of the most special after the catch players in the entire draft. I mean, I remember when the first comps were coming out, there were a lot of Debo comps. And I thought he was a better, more natural separator than Debo was. And he has that weird kind of build. I mean, about 5'10" or 5'11", about 205, 210. Like he's got a stocky, kind of remind me of a little bit, and maybe not quite as big, but kind of like a Jamar Chase, Malik Neighbors build, like kind of smaller, but a lot more impact. And I'm not saying he's on that caliber player because I don't think he is, but I'm all in on Luther Burden. I like this kid a lot. I think he's being underrated. I think his catch radius for being smaller also is extremely impressive. And like I said, he's one of the best after the catch players, I believe, in the entire draft. And that includes guys like Travis Hunter and Tyler Warren and Costa Loveland. So love this pick. They need another wide receiver. Bo Nix, shockingly, at least he shocked me, had a really good rookie year. I was not expecting that out of him. I do kind of wonder how much better he can get, but you got to surround it with more talent. I think with the Burden could be day one, in my opinion, the best option on that team.
Yeah, and he's a pure starting slot for them. They need that. And a couple connections here. Like my comp immediately to him was Emmanuel Sanders, Denver organization guy. I don't know if there's anyone in there still that like knows him, but Sean Payton did have a couple of years of Sanders in New Orleans towards the end of his career, and those were those last few Saint teams with Drew Brees. Sanders was producing there, so there's some crossover there potentially for him.
Good comp. I never thought of that. Steelers at 21. I want to have fun. I want to have a little bit of fun. I think this offensive line is better than what we give it credit for. Now that Dan Moore is gone, I like both tackles' potentials. There's no chance it works, but I like Troy Fatanu. Amir Smith's going into year 3. Or is it year 2? Yeah, it's year 3 because he was in the Paris Johnson draft. So he's going into year 3. What's his name? The West Virginia center. I'm blanking on his name.
Zach Frazier.
Yeah, Zach Frazier.
You got Mason McCormick.
Yeah, solid rookie. They have Mason McCormick, who I think is going to take over for James Daniels, and you have Isaac Samala guard. So I think this offensive line is fine. If you want to take someone from like day 2, day 3, but probably day like 3rd round because they don't have a second round pick anymore, I think that's fine. I want to have fun, and I think it's possible. They let Najee Harris walk, and they didn't really bring anyone to replace him. And I know Amari Hampton's going in the 1st round. It's just the question is where. Why can't he go in Pittsburgh? Why not? I think Arthur Smith is going to want a guy in the backfield that can consistently have be a 3-down back. And I know you're a bit lower on Hampton than the consensus, but I love Amari Hampton. I think he's so special as a runner. Contact balance is great. We talked about it on your pod, so I'm not really going to go over it again, but I think Hampton is so special. I think he's closer to G&T than a lot of people say. I don't think I do want to preface this. There is a gap. There is a gap, but a lot of people think, that it's him and then there's 2 tiers and then it's Amarian. I don't think so. I think he's a lot closer to him than that. He's going to go 1st round. Just the question is where. And the Steelers, they let go of Najee. They have, is it Jalen Warren, I believe?
Yep.
Jalen Warren, the other running back, he's not a 3-down back. Arthur Smith is going to want another guy who can take carries. They don't need wide receiver anymore. I mean, Roman Wilson's going to be coming back playing the slot, and you have George Pickens and DK, even though I don't really like that fit that much. Like, it's still 2 guys that you can trust on the outside. So I don't think they go after a receiver. Maybe you can talk me into Malachi Starks. Maybe you can talk me into Kenneth Grant. Cam Hayward is never, he's just going to keep getting older. You can talk me into that, but I want to have fun. Let's go with an Arthur Smith pick. Let's go with Martin Hampton.
Yeah, I think they're definitely a team that could do this. I think between them and Denver, like one of them is definitely taking a running back. Yes. Probably Hampton. And I wouldn't be stunned if we see a 3rd or a 4th running back go in the 1st round, just by the way this draft is trending. That I would advise that, but it does seem like this is a great running back class, and it's not a high talent class, so I wouldn't be stunned. But you look, I would get on them just because they drafted Najee, and this is 2 running backs they're taking the first round, but I think they're much more likely to hit on this one than they did with Najee when they had all
Well, I
sorts of
like him
O-line
way
issues.
more than Najee.
And I like him better. Yeah, I was famously not a big Najee guy.
96 on the big board, by the way. I went back and checked.
Yeah, I mean, look, and the guy's still in the league, so I guess that you got a contract. Like, maybe I should have had him higher, but who was ahead of him? It was Javonte Williams.
It was Javonte Williams, Travis Etienne, and him. And
right,
none of them really have worked out that well.
I think Javonte and Travis, when they've been healthy, have done more at their peak. It's just they've been injured, especially Travis, who, in that 1 year where Jacksonville wins a playoff game, looked like a really good player. It's just they've had a lot of issues.
Dude, I remember he was like a consensus top 8 running back in fantasy at one point.
He's that. And even he's been a sleeper, and a guy when he's healthy, he's good. It's just I don't know. And Javante's just a bajillion issues with his injuries. So whatever. Chargers is snap pick Colston Loveland for me. I don't see how they pass on a tight end prospect 2 years in a row with Jim Harbaugh there, especially if it's a Michigan guy. It's just enough people I've heard be like, this is a guy that I feel is closer to Tyler Ward than people actually think around the league. He's going in the first round. I don't think he's falling very much. I don't think he could fall below this. I would, if he does, I think teams are going to try to trade up for him. I don't think this is a guy that makes it into the back fourth of the first round.
Yeah, I agree. And by the way, I agree with your first point. On my board, which isn't finalized, but I feel pretty good about the top 20. There's just some other things I kind of want to tweak down below because I haven't really updated my board since the pre-combine, but the top 15 I still feel pretty good about. I have Tyler Warren at number 8. I have Coastal Loveland at number 10. I do not think there is that much of a gap. I think a lot of people are forgetting about how good Coastal Loveland was just because of how poor the Michigan quarterback play was. He was consensus tight end 1 going into the offseason, going into the summer. Because Tyler Warren hadn't breaking out yet. There was obviously some hype with guys like Bryson Nesbitt, Oscar Delp at Georgia, Luke Lachey. Unfortunately, he just hasn't really looked the same since the ACL. There's been other guys, and Warren had the year he did, 1,200 yards, 12 touchdowns, crazy year. He was the best tight end in the country. And people just kind of forgot about Coastal Loveland because Michigan just disappointed this year, and the quarterback play was abysmal. And he still put up, 700 yards in that offense?
Well, and that's the big thing is he's produced the entire time and hasn't stopped. People know who he is in the league, and he's continued to play well. I think the thing that hurts him is just with all these teams personnel. We've brought it up so many times. You want to be able to move people around and do different things with them. A guy like Tyler Warren who has the size to line up in line and go on the ball and be a sixth offensive tackle, even if you think we were getting more out of Loveland in other phases and even every other phase. It's just the difference in terms of that, in my opinion, is so big in terms of these offensive designers' minds that they're going to value it. I don't know if they're right about that. I still obviously Travis Kelce, is this generation's tight end great after Rob Gronkowski, but he's never been that guy. And it hasn't mattered. So maybe they end up having the best tight end in this draft still, but I do think that's how the teams tend to think, and it's probably going to be why Warren goes first, but it's not necessarily a ruling against what Loveland can do outside of that.
Yep. Couldn't have said it better myself. Packers at 23, because we obviously know it's going to be defense, unless they take a quarterback, which is probably not going to happen.
Yeah, and they can't go O-line again. I mean, they just paid Banks and drafted Morgan, which is why.
That contract was so bad, dude. Oh my God. I don't mean to get off topic, but that contract was so bad. Aaron Banks is he's just the most average, just average guard ever. And they paid him so much. Dude, they paid him $18 million a year.
They paid for a scheme fit. That's all they did.
Dude.
And it's a lot of money for a scheme fit.
It's so much. I wouldn't have done it. And I already liked their offensive line, honestly, prior to that. I didn't think they need to go out and spend crazy money on the O-line. I like Sean Ryan, Jordan Morgan, what's his name, out at Zach Tom, and then the other kid out of Penn State, Rasheed Walker.
Yeah.
They had good players on that O-line. Now they're just bringing in another one for a crazy amount of money when could have used that to go on a receiver, but I guess not. They're going to go what's up?
They have one of these bigger receivers in the second round written all over them this year. They're gonna do it. I'm so positive.
Like Ailman or something.
They're gonna whatever the slowest, tallest receiver available in the second round is. That's who they're gonna get.
I'm just looking at what are some options. Jack Best could be an option. Actually,
Best might be their guy.
I love Jaden Higgins. By the way, I love Jaden Higgins. I'll throw out the hot take now. I have Jaden Higgins above Emeka Egbuka. I
Really?
love Jaden Higgins, dude. He is so special, and I know the separation isn't great, and the route technique, excuse me, isn't great. Dude, he catches everything. He's amazing after the catch, and he tests like a 98% athlete, and he's 6'4". I'm all in. I'm all in on that.
So what I'm going to say is these teams with Shanahan, like Peters, 49ers connections, they're going to love Jack Bech. Like just physically
Yes.
what he is, like he checks all their boxes.
Yes.
He's a blocker, physical guy. He's going to go.
You think he could be the Ricky Pearsall way? It's like he goes late first round and he's the stunner.
I think Washington could take him at 29. I wouldn't be stunned, honestly.
Would you be upset?
Not really. I like him. I think he's a good player. I don't know. It's higher than I would take him, but like, you know.
I mean, I wouldn't be upset. I think it'd be like a C plus B.
I could see them making it work, you know. I give these teams that run those specific offensive systems a little more leeway with what they do in terms of their weapons.
Right. All right, we need to get back to the Packers because this team is impossible to talk about in the draft because they're so mysterious.
Well, and they have bajillion thresholds too. Like they love athleticism. They love like SEC competition guys.
Which is, and I'm glad you brought that up because I think there's one player that matches them so well, and you're gonna laugh the moment I click on it. Hold on, let me pull it up real quick. I think it's going to be Shamar Stewart.
No, yeah, and I like Shamar Stewart.
It just fits them, man. And like, I think they missed on Lucas Van Ness, and I know it's still early, but dude, he has done absolutely nothing for them over the last 2 years.
Rashawn Gary
had a down year last year, and they let Preston Smith. Ever since they let Preston Smith walk, it really seemed like that deal. Dude, they could not rush the passer at all in the second half of the season. They could not. And it sucks because you have so many first-round picks on that D-line. Devontae Wyatt, Lucas Van Ness, Rashawn Gary. Like, you have so many first-round picks and just, Rashawn Gary had a good few years, but last year was not the same. I don't know if he was hurt or something, but I don't know. But in terms of what they like the bigger guys. They like the SEC guys. Shamar Stewart tested damn near like Myles Garrett. So they're probably going to fall in love with that.
I believe it. Yeah, and they gave Gary a while to develop too. Like it was like year 3 when he finally broke out.
Yeah,
which is where we're coming up on Van Ness here. But like you said, they had Preston Smith too, and they had Zadarius Smith before that. They like to have 3 guys in development pipeline. I very much think like one of those, either him or like Michael Williams, is probably going to be their pick at 23. And if not, I think Savone Ravel is like very much their type of corner as well. But I don't know. They're always. They're going to take a corner or an edge player. That's what it's going to be. All right, the Texans are taking Josh Simmons. Or we're on the Vikings. Never mind. Jump the gun a little bit.
Texans. We'll get to that.
Yeah. All right. I got to remember to keep filling out on my board what's going on here. But we're on to the Texans. Or on to the Vikings. O-line an issue for them as well. They more of interior. I know they signed some guys. I'm not
signed Will Fries and Ryan Kelly.
Mm-hmm. So like they're better off than they were. For them it's going to be like I don't think they add another receiver because they've kind of already got 2 guys on the outside you feel good about. But could they upgrade? They signed Rondale Moore. They're not drafting a receiver. They're good.
Legacy lives on, baby.
He's gonna do it. So he's gonna look. Here's my thing with Rondale at this point. He's gonna have 1 year where he just has like 1,200 yards from scrimmage. It's gonna be like 400 rush yards, 800 receiving yards. He's in like a weird offense that like is really good and like produces. It's gonna be like a flash in the pan. It could be this team where it's like, oh, what a year for JJ McCarthy, and then he never produces like this ever again, and the offense doesn't get back to it. And Rondale Moore is just like this figment third like player in the offense.
It's like Jordan Addison gets hurt or something. He has to take the man as the wide receiver too, and
he's going to have 1 year. I'm telling you, 1 year he'll be healthy, and he's going to just have an insane production, and that's going to be it. Everyone's going to draft him high in fantasy the next year, and that's all it's going to happen. And I'm just going to be like, yeah, I told you he had it in him.
Oh, poor Rondale, man.
I mean, look, the guy can't stay healthy. I don't know what to tell you. Like he's been fun when he's healthy. It's just this is where I'm going to take Malachi Starks because they need to get younger there. They lost Cam Bynum. Harrison Smith's not going to be around forever. And I do think this is a team that's shown they're open to taking safeties in the first round already once, especially out of Georgia, even though they missed on Lewis Cine. There's not many places they can really target. And I do think he's like the best player on the board at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I would have taken him a lot earlier.
Me too.
A lot earlier. And there's another safety that we might get to potentially in this video too.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Houston at 25. You said Josh Simmons. Are we sure they're going to go tackle? They brought in Cam Robinson, they brought in Trent Brown, and they already have Titus Howard. Are we sure they're going to go tackle?
I mean, maybe not it's completely, but it's just what's the long term plan here? Like,
For me, listen, I would go Josh Simmons, but for me, what I think could happen, I think they could go Grace Able to put him at guard.
They could do that.
I think they could do that,
and I do think he's going in the first round.
I do too. I think if Barn goes in the first round, Grace Able is going to go in the first round. I think that's my take on that.
Yeah.
It's just, do I do it? Do I go because I don't think Josh Simmons is not a guard. He is a tackle. Yeah. And then Grace Able, I think he is a guard. So do they go guard or tackle? No matter what, they're screwed, by the way, because this offensive line might be if they don't draft someone in the first round, this is the worst offensive line.
Yeah, they have to force it. This is what happened with Titus Howard, too.
Like, dude, you should look at their depth chart right now on the O-line and just take a good look, because it really is that bad. Like, we're talking about Cam Robinson and Trent Brown at tackles. We're talking about Juice Shrugs at center, and I think it's like Lincoln Tomlinson at guard and Kendrick Green at guard.
Well, Green got traded to you. It's probably going to be Tomlinson.
No, Kenyon Green got traded. Kendrick Green.
Oh, Kendrick Green, right.
Yeah. Him out of Illinois.
I mean, Jarrett Patterson played center for them last year and was like the better center for them. So I don't know if he ends up winning that job over Juice Scruggs, because they took him in the same draft and took Scruggs much higher. They might put Titus Howard at right guard because he's played there and he's looked decent at times. It's just, yeah, it's not great.
It's not. I don't know. I mean, but maybe the thought process is also, Josh Simmons is coming off an injury. Let's not throw him out there right away. Let's get some veterans to have him limit. You know what? I actually think that makes sense. I'll go Josh Simmons. I think that makes sense. I mean, without the knee injury, I think he's a top 15 player in the draft. I think he goes top 15 easy. I think he could be tackle 1 without the knee injury. I really think he could be. And the fact that he's going this high at all and could potentially even go higher, despite having a season-ending injury, and he only played 5 games, that should show you how good the tape was. Like, truly, I thought he was the cleanest offensive lineman in pass protection out of anybody in the draft.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these teams are recognizing how important, like, just putting offensive line in the pipeline, even though they're not playing for you immediately, is. And I think Houston just has to be considering that, considering what their quarterback is and what they did last year. Because they got to the divisional round on the back of having this great quarterback and a good defense, of course, as well. But, like, dude, CJ Stroud running for his life and, like, making it work is a little absurd considering the situation. And I don't know. Like, I think he got railed on a little too hard last year just with how he played. Look, he didn't look as good, but
the interior line was terrible. Bobby Slowick was bad, and the wide receivers were always hurt. Yeah,
like, absolutely not CJ Stroud's fault. And what the Texans are their offseason, they didn't do it. I mean, they added Stephon Diggs. That was a big thing. It looked good when they had him, but he gets hurt. Tank Dell gets hurt. That's tough. But that O-line was never like a unit we felt great about, and they didn't do enough this offseason with it. So you got to keep doing it when you have a young QB, and it's not something that they attacked well enough, and now they got rid of Laramie Tunsil. Let's see what happens with that. I don't know. The Rams are up here. This was a team that, like, I really thought would be trying to force tackle here, because I didn't think they were going to get Alaric Jackson back. And I thought teams were going to, like, pay it. Like,
I thought the Patriots were going to steal him for sure.
Yeah, I thought someone was going to just break the bank for that guy just because he's solid. And, like, look at the contract Dan Moore got, and I think Alaric Jackson is a better player than Dan Moore. But so it turns out they're good at tackle. Really, their interior is solid too. There's a lot of things they could do here. You could add another edge player. If you don't think Byron Young is a full-time guy, you could take a different receiver option here. Considering Cooper Kupp's gone, you can beef up a little bit in the middle. They did sign Poona Ford, so I'm not really going to give them Kenneth Brandt. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to give them Matthew Golden, because I do think Tutu Atwell, I know they brought him back. I think that's kind of like a placeholder for them to finally get something else to the receiver room. I don't think you get rid of Cooper Kupp when you're Sean McVay and not have like an immediate guy that you feel really great about. I know they got Devontae Adams, didn't they? I still like it. Whatever. Matthew Golden is what it is. And Adams isn't going to be there forever. I mean, he's got
they only signed to a 2-year deal.
Yeah, and it probably has a 1-year out too. And look, you don't have Matthew Stafford much longer. I feel really good about what this defense is. I don't think they need to add another edge player ahead of what's his name, Byron Young. Like, I think he's a good player, and I think they have like multiple enough up front that they can like even play with 3 of their interior guys down and then put Jared Verse on the outside. Like, this is a team that like Jahad Campbell has come up for me a lot with, and he's not here. You could think about a safety like Nick Merriam at this point, but I think they get more out of just trying to go balls to the wall with the receiver room and just going Matthew Golden, Devontae Adams, and Puka Nacua, and that is a crazy receiver room if they make that work out. Like, they will put up some numbers this year on offense if they have that going for them. And This is fun, so we're doing it.
Yeah, I mean Tay I imagine Tay's probably going to be the X, Golden probably at the Z, and then you're going to move Puka around, especially with how much motion they run. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I love it. I'm all in for that. I mean, they're going to live by the pass. They're going to die by the pass. So hopefully Matthew Stafford is still the same guy. I mean, I imagine he will be, but he's getting up there. It's only a matter of time before it happens with him. But still, I'm big on the Rams this year. With this move, dude, this may be a hot take. I think they're the best team in the West right now. I really think that.
I think they're the second best team in the NFC right now. Without that,
Behind Philly?
Yeah.
So ahead of Detroit.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Very interesting. Maybe you're higher on their secondary potential than I am. But that's that's just the one thing. Like, I just don't like their corners. And they have potential, and I don't think they go after a corner at 26. I think you can get a decent corner with your second round pick, like Trey Amos, Darian Porter, like someone like that is going to fall to you. So
they have also historically been a team with McVay there and Les Snead that has loved to trade out of the first round when they've had these like later picks too. So I wouldn't be shocked if they do that and go get a corner.
Fair enough. Ravens at 27. For me, this is going to be edge. The edge room. I mean, the recent picks at edge haven't been great. David Ajabo got hurt. Really hasn't been the same. Adafe always decent, but not anything spectacular. I love Nick scoring, but I don't think they're going to take him. Michael Williams, just bank on the potential. I mean, this is a team that loves to bank on those toolsy edge rushers. They took it. The two guys I just mentioned, Adafe and Ajabo, those are two toolsy guys who Adafe just didn't have any productions and Ajabo just got hurt. So do they take the swing on Michael? I think they do. I think we're kind of underrating Michael a little bit. There's some people that overrate him when we put him inside of the top 12, but I just don't think he ever played the proper position at Georgia. They always had him lining up in between the guard and the tackle. And for the few times he was outside the tackle shoulder, I mean, you saw it against Florida State in the bowl game. Now, granted, you can say, bad competition, blah, 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 whatever. That was the best game of his career, I thought. I thought he was dominant that entire game whenever he was rushing from the outside shoulder as a 7. So I like Michael a lot. Love his potential. And, you've said it before. If there's one team you can trust at developing defensive linemen, I would bank on Baltimore.
Yeah, and just him and Shamar Stewart, like the way I kind of look at them in this draft is Shamar Stewart is Odafe Owe as a prospect, right? Yeah. A guy that I had kind of in the early 30s in a really good draft. So if he goes in the 20s, like I feel fine about it. Like where we took him, it's like I'm not going to complain. I don't know if he should go top 10 the way some people are talking about him. Michael Williams to me is Trevon Walker. And I even think the tape looks very similar. Maybe not as many explosive plays on film, and he probably didn't test as well either, though we don't really have the perfect numbers for him at this point. But I do think like there are some nice flashes on tape that like show you a guy that's going to be able to do some impressive things at the NFL level just because physically he's different in terms of the size and like the length and everything. The Ravens have a great landing spot for him. They love to move their guys around. He's a guy who can kind of start out as that like 4-eye edge hybrid, just kind of get used to it, and then eventually move outside full time when you start getting better at beating guys one-on-one. And then the other thing about that is just like Trevon Walker. I know we were both lower on him in that draft. It was also not a great draft, right? And I don't think Jacksonville made the right decision, but I think I was a little wrong in terms of like how low I had him. Like I still think he should have gone higher than I had him at this point. I think he's played better than I thought he would. And so yes, I think Michael is losing a little bit of steam, and if he's here, I think this is a great fit for the Ravens. Lions are also a team that, like, even with what they've already done, getting back Davenport, some of these other guys, Josh Pascal healthier, like they need to have edge players because they've had so many injuries. They have Aiden Hudson coming off an injury. Like, I just think they need to be deep there. They just gotta have guys, and I think Ezaraku is a body that they don't have. So I really like that fit for them.
I'm checking back on my 2022 board to see where I have Trevon Walker ranked, and I'm checking this year to see where I have Mike Cow ranked. Yeah, I mean, okay, so I just checked it out. Trevon Walker in the 2022, I had him number 21 on my board, and Mike Cow number 22. So
there you go.
I mean, I agree with you. I think they're super similar in terms of prospects, which is so crazy that Trevon went number 1. Shout out Trent Baalke. But he's been all right so far. I will say it hasn't been as bad of a pick as I thought it was going to
Well,
be.
just they didn't take Aiden Hutchinson or Kyle Hamilton. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
or
well,
Derek Stingley or Sauce Gardner and all
no,
these
yeah,
players.
but at the same time, he quietly had a double-digit sack season last year.
Yeah.
So at least there's that's something to take away from, even if it wasn't as efficient as some. He still had a good year last year, and he's only going to get better. He's going into year 4. Lions here. This is another team that could go edge. I think wide receivers.
I'm taking Ezeraku for them.
Oh yeah, that's what I was leaning right now.
Yeah.
I love Scourton though. I think Scourton's getting so underrated. I have Scourton as my edge 3, by the way.
I do think he's getting overrated too, because we talked about this. I talked about this with Max. Like if you were really good next last year in college and then you kind of have a dip in your last year, people just like forget about you. It's tough.
Yes, they really do. And it sucks. And most of those guys end up being really good, by the way, when they get drafted. So tough, man. And I don't know how you don't follow the trend. Like Max said it on his show, but LT Overton was at Texas A&M, transfers to Bama, breaks out. Walter Nolan at Texas A&M, he's bad, goes to A&M, breaks out. Nick Scourton goes to A&M. He was at Purdue, was one of the best edge rushers in college football this year. Not as good. Shamar Stewart never produced. Shamar Turner never produced. Like, I don't get it. Like, you would think there has to be some, like, there's no way all that's a coincidence. Like, you're not telling me that's all not a coincidence. So, Scourton's going to go in the second round, and it breaks my heart. But, yeah, Donovan's going to go above him. Great name, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that.
It's a plus.
Yeah, it's a plus name.
You don't have many Donovans in the first round these days.
We really don't. We don't have a lot of Donovans picked, which is tough. But, yeah, I can see the fit here. They need another guy next to Aiden Hutchinson. Maybe get a speedy guy. With about a huge pass rush bag. I don't know if you've watched him at all. I mean, the bag with him is super impressive. And he was super productive this year. He was one of the most productive edge rushers in the country.
Yeah, he's an impressive individual, too, just a student of the game. And I just think they're going to, like, really – this specific staff is going to very much like him. I think I really want Washington to get him. I don't think he's going to get past the Lions. I think the Lions –
so? Probably not, but who knows, maybe. I just realized – that's my bad.
No, you're up. Yeah. I was saying that's why I was saying Ezra. It's okay.
So
I convinced you into it.
I kind of didn't even realize that. That's my bad. At least you won Donovan, so I guess it's okay. All right, I got Nicholas's team over here, the Washington Commanders. How you feeling?
Pretty good. Good year.
NFC title run. I'd say it's pretty good. Wide receiver, Ibuka's just staring at me in the face, dude. What else could they do? Edge is a big need too. Any edge rushers that really stick out? I love Scourton, but I don't think he's going to go in the first round. But trust me, I love Scourton. If it's up to me, I'm taking him in the top 20. Just because I think they asked him to gain weight. He wasn't the same guy. I think if he gets back down to 260, 265, I think he's the Purdue version, and I think that's a top 15 pick. I don't think he goes this high. I know Kenneth Grant is right there, but I don't think you'd take another one. Corner. That one's really sticking out. I'm gonna go safety. I'm gonna go Nick and Maury. I think the Derwin James comes from me. I think those are outrageous. I hate those a lot, but you can't deny the testing, man. He did test as the most athletic safety in combine history. And I don't know if you know this. If you plug in his testing numbers at wide receiver, he's the second most athletic wide receiver in combine history, only behind Calvin Johnson. So I'd say he's a pretty good athlete. But even though I think his instincts get a little bit overrated, the ball skills are fantastic. He's twitchy as hell. He's going to play. I think he's going to be sick in the box. He can have some snaps out in deep high. Probably don't leave him out there by himself. I don't know if Washington's a common too high team, but I like the fit here. They're going to need a guy to replace Jeremy Chin. I think he can do that well. And it's also these types of athletes usually don't fall out of the first round, especially when you have ball production, and he does. So I think he goes first round.
Yeah, we run a mix of too high and single, and I don't think they really they asked their safeties to do a little bit of everything. So like him and Quan will do whatever. This is such a Dan Quinn player. Only thing that absolutely, like they're gonna he's gonna be banging the table for Nick Merriam. Like if I were to guess right now who the pick at 29 is, it's this guy, honestly. And the only thing that gives me pause on like that is that I just think they really want their DBs to hit. And we talk about the instincts, like the trigger to get downhill. I don't know that he's a guy that doesn't like tackling. It's just there's a little bit of just like a dog thing in some guys where you just like they loved Brian Branch because of just like he still takes people's heads off to a degree that might be a little excessive in some people's opinions, maybe. So like that's what they want. You can't necessarily have everything when you're picking at 29. So maybe they just try and get it out of them. And I wouldn't be stunned if they find a way because the culture's worked well. So hopefully that continues. The Bills for me, I don't see how you can not take Kenneth Grant if they're at 30 here, just because it's a body type they don't have on their defensive line. And that's been a position group that we've been mocking to them. I think the entire time has been a lot of like getting an extra defense tackle and edge of the first two picks. They just, how are you going to improve a roster that has everything? Just find more pass rushing toolkits. And I don't know that Kenneth Grant is necessarily a pass rush first player, but it does give them more versatility up front. And right now, I think the two guys they have, one of them is Ed Oliver. The other guy is the Daquan Jones, who is a bigger guy, but he's not quite Kenneth Grant physically. And there are going to be downs where you want to have Jones and Kenneth Grant in the middle. So that at least allows you to be more versatile with how you use Ed Oliver.
Outside of Kyra Elam being burnt toast against the Chiefs, I think the number one reason why they lost to the Chiefs was because they could not stop the run.
Yeah.
And I think Kenneth Grant improves that day one. And the upside is there to be like truly, and I'm not saying it's going to happen because I don't think it will, but if he really does hit his full potential, he could be Dexter Lawrence. He really could be that good. So I don't know. I think the two biggest needs, you can't pass on me. This is an A+ pick. This is probably the best pick of the draft. But I think another position that they could target is also corner. But yeah, Kenneth Grant here, sick pick. This is, like I said, it's probably pick of the draft. Chiefs at 31. I don't think they're going to go tackle anymore because they signed is it Jalen Moore? But he's the backup from San Francisco. They signed into a 2-year, $25 million deal or something like that, maybe 30. It was just a 2-year deal. And I think when you give someone that kind of money, you're signing them to be a starter. That's what Arizona did with Jonah Williams. They gave him a 2-year, about $30 million contract. And I think they did the same thing with Jalen Moore. So I expect him to start. Sounds like they're going to put Kinswick guard, which I am interested in. I'm excited to see how that goes. You still have Creed Humphrey, best center in the league. Trey Smith, obviously the big-time free agent who ended up staying, get franchise tagged. He'll probably get a contract soon. And then you still have Jawan Taylor on the contract. So I don't really see them going after O-line in the first round. Could go D-tackle. I know Derek Harmon has been mocked here a ton. Could go Ibuka maybe. But I don't know. I guess you have Rashee Rice coming back. I'm just going to go Derek Harmon. I think you need another body next to Chris Jones. And Chris Jones isn't going to get any younger. He's already in his 30s. And he's still the prime Chris Jones he is. But how many more prime years are you going to get? Are you going to get? Maybe 2. So, I don't know. I love this pick. They need another body next to him. I could also see edge possibly. Nick Scorn, I could 100% see. They don't really have much outside of George Karlaftis as a consistent player. So, I think D-line in general just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, they lost Derek Noddy too. So like their options right now are like Jerry Tillery, Mike Pennell, Marlon Tuipulotu. It's they need like an actual interior guy. It's gotta happen.
Not good.
So I wouldn't hate Darius Alexander there either. I think he's got some juice. But I think that if they're not going tackle anymore, I think that is one of their bigger needs. The Eagles, I'm taking Gray Zabel. He's playing right guard.
You're not thinking twice, Gray Zabel?
I'm not thinking twice. Ibuka would be fun. They're going to take Gray Zabel if he's there. Just knowing them. Like, there's no way they don't have a solution for that right guard spot. Even if Tyler Steen and Kenyon Green are like developmental options for them, like they are going to – the Eagles will not allow themselves to go into this year not having once again the most dominant offensive line in the NFL. Like they're gonna find a way. And let's say Gray Zabel isn't their starter, right? Maybe Steen's the guy. All right, fine. Gray Zabel, we're gonna develop you to play right tackle when Lane Johnson retires. Fine, whatever. They're gonna figure it out somehow.
Nick, appreciate you joining me, my man. We've been in talks about starting a potential podcast. Once the summer gets going, hopefully we can get that started with school going crazy. But hey, man, I appreciate you joining me. We had a lot of fun back on the Boomer Bus Show talking the NFL draft, so it's always an honor. Appreciate it, my man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.